I was wearing a $60,000 Vera Wang gown when my fiancé pushed me into the sub-zero darkness of the Alaskan highway. Dominic Ardent didn't just want me gone. He wanted me to disappear, profitably. He thought the snow would erase me. He didn't realize I wasn't the only ghost out there that night. I was found by his most dangerous enemy. And he didn't offer me a hand. He offered me a throne built on Dominic's ruins. Before I tell you how I said yes, tell me something. Would you choose revenge or survival? Comment below. And if you love stories where power and love collide, subscribe, because this one only gets darker. The blizzard hit us just past mile marker 42. Alaska doesn't ease you into death. It swallows you whole. Wind slammed against the black SUV, snow whipping sideways in violent spirals under the headlights. "Pull over," I said, staring at the storm swallowing the road. Dominic didn't answer. His jaw tightened. Not angry. Not, "Shouldn't have opened that ledger. Shouldn't have opened that ledger, Serafina." The words didn't register at first. "What?" "The black ledger. My father keeps it encrypted. You were never supposed to see it." My stomach dropped. 3 hours earlier, I had been at our engagement gala, wearing a silk gown worth more than most people's annual salaries. Champagne, cameras, investors, charity board members praising the Vallecrest Ardent Union like it was the merging of royal bloodlines. And then I found the files. Transfers from my family's humanitarian foundation, the Vallecrest Global Relief Fund, into offshore shells. Then into accounts flagged by Interpol. Weapons, trafficking, political bribes, blood money wearing a charity's name. "I thought you were smarter than this," Dominic continued, voice almost gentle. "You could have married me and never known. I confronted you." "Yes," he said quietly, "you did." The SUV slowed, snowstorm screaming outside. The locks clicked. He pressed a button. My door swung open. The cold hit like a punch to the lungs. "Dominic," my voice cracked, not from fear, from disbelief. "We could fix this," I whispered. "We could go to the authorities. We could—" He leaned closer, close enough that I could see snow melting in his lashes. "Dead," he murmured. "You're worth more than alive." The wind howled. Before I could grab the handle, his hand was on my shoulder. And then there was nothing beneath my feet. The snow didn't feel soft. It felt like concrete. I rolled once, twice. My head struck ice. The world exploded white. The SUV door slammed. Engine roared. And through blurred vision, I saw red taillights disappear into the storm. No hesitation. No brake lights. No looking back. Cold is not immediate pain. It's theft. It steals your breath first, then your fingers, then your thoughts. I tried to sit up. My body refused. The wind sliced through silk and skin like knives. The engagement ring on my finger felt heavy, ridiculous. I started laughing. Somewhere in Manhattan, guests were still posting photos from our engagement party. #Vallecrest Ardent Forever. I tasted blood. I tried crawling toward the road. The snow was already covering my footprints, erasing me. Profitable disappearance. That's what this was. My death would release trust clauses, insurance policies, consolidated shares. The Vallecrest Foundation would fall under Dominic's control fully once I was declared deceased. And the scandal? There wouldn't be one. They would say I wandered out during the storm, fragile heiress, emotional breakdown, tragic accident. Snow filled my mouth. My vision tunneled. This is how people vanish, I thought. Not dramatic. Just quiet. Headlights cut through the storm. At first I thought it was hallucination. A long black silhouette carved through white chaos. Engine, deeper than Dominic's SUV. Slower, controlled. The vehicle stopped, Door opened. Boots hit ice. Heavy. Deliberate. I couldn't turn my head fully, but I knew that stride. I had seen it across boardrooms, across news headlines, across financial wars. Caius Blackthorne, Dominic's most dangerous rival. The man who had spent the last 5 years dismantling ardent industries, one acquisition at a time. He knelt beside me. No panic, no shock, just quiet assessment. Interesting, he said. His voice was low, almost amused. Ardent finally made his move. I tried to speak. Snow crusted on my lips. You, I swallowed. You followed him. His eyes met mine. Dark, sharp, calculating. I was hoping he'd slip, Caius said calmly. I didn't expect him to throw away something so valuable. Valuable. Even now. A negotiation. His coat came off his shoulders and wrapped around me. Warmth hit my skin like agony. He slid one arm beneath my back, another beneath my knees. I gasped from the sudden movement. Stay conscious, he ordered. Why? I whispered. His mouth curved slightly. Because I have an offer for you. The wind roared louder. Dominic thinks you're dead, Caius continued as he carried me toward his car. If we move quickly, we can keep it that way. The world tilted as he placed me inside his vehicle. Leather interior, controlled heat, controlled environment, control. Why would you help me? I managed. He shut the door, walked around, slid into the driver's seat, started the engine, snow swirling against reinforced glass. I'm not helping you, he said. He looked at me then, really looked, not at my torn gown, not at the ring, at me. I'm declaring war. The car pulled away, and for the first time since Dominic smiled and opened that door, I felt something other than cold. When I woke up, it wasn't warm, it was white. Not snow, ceiling, bright, sterile, deliberate. My body felt like it had been dropped from a height and rebuilt wrong. For a moment I didn't know where I was. Then I remembered the door opening, Dominic's hand, the wind, Caius. I tried to sit up. Pain snapped through my ribs. Don't! His voice came from the corner of the room. Caius Blackthorne stood near the window, jacket off, sleeves rolled up. Not pacing, not anxious, just watching the snowstorm outside like it was data. You have mild hypothermia, he continued. Possible bruised ribs, no skull fracture. You're fortunate. Fortunate. I swallowed. My throat burned. Where am I? My winter estate. 2 hours from Anchorage. Off-grid. Of course it was. Everything about him screamed contingency planning. I looked down. My engagement. Can afford it. I turned my head. Fully can afford it. I turned my head fully toward him. You were following Dominic. Yes. For how long? Long enough. That wasn't an answer. You expected him to do something like that? I expected him to panic. Men like Dominic always panic when exposure threatens legacy. I stared at him. You wanted him to kill me. His gaze shifted from the storm to me. No, he said calmly. I wanted him desperate. There was a difference, and it unsettled me. A tray sat on the bedside table. Water, electrolytes, a tablet device. The tablet lit up. News headlines. Valacrest heiress, missing in Alaska storm. Search teams mobilized. Dominic's photo beneath it. Grieving fiancé. Statement released. I am devastated. Serafina was emotional after a disagreement. She left the vehicle. During whiteout conditions, I tried to find her. I felt the air leave my lungs. He's already shaping the narrative, Caius said. He's good at that. I kept reading. Investors expressing sympathy, board members calling for prayers, the Valacrest Global Relief Fund announcing emergency restructuring to maintain stability during tragedy. My tragedy. How long? I asked quietly. Until what? Until I'm legally dead. Caius crossed the room and picked up the tablet from my hands. 72 hours before search teams are scaled down, he said. 7 days before unofficial memorials begin. 30 days before asset realignment discussions. Clinical. Precise. You've calculated this. Yes. Silence stretched between us. Outside, snow continued erasing the world. Why save me? I asked. This time he didn't dodge. Because your death benefits Dominic more than it benefits me. There it was. Strategy. Alive, he continued. You are leverage. I laughed weakly. I'm a weapon. His jaw tightened slightly. If used correctly. He walked to the fireplace and adjusted the flame, not for warmth, for control. You opened the black ledger, he said without turning. Tell me what you saw. I'm not your intelligence source. No, he agreed calmly. You're my partner, potentially. Partner. The word landed differently. You hate Dominic. I don't hate him. He faced me fully now. I hate incompetence disguised as power. And my father? I asked quietly. A flicker. Almost invisible. Your father, Caius said slowly, built an empire on optics. That's not an answer. He and Dominic's father share more history than the press realizes. My stomach tightened. What does that mean? It means, Caius said evenly, if you pull this thread, you may not like what unravels. The room felt colder despite the fire. You're not just after Dominic, I said. No. Then why involve me? Because you're the only person who can walk into both empires without being questioned. I understood then. Dominic believed I was dead. My father believed I was dying somewhere in a snowbank. No one was watching for me. I was invisible. Caius stepped closer to the bed. Marry me. The words didn't echo. They settled. You're insane. Contractually. He placed a thin leather folder on the bed beside me. 1 year. Public marriage. Strategic alliance. You re-emerge under my protection. And in exchange? We dismantle Dominic Ardent. And my father? I pressed. Caius held my gaze. If he's clean, he survives. If. My chest tightened. You've wanted this for years, I whispered. Yes. And I'm convenient. Yes. No lies, no charm, no performance. Just truth sharpened to a blade. You think I'll agree? I think, Caius said quietly, that you don't have another move. He wasn't wrong. If I surfaced alone, Dominic would try again. If I went to authorities, his legal machine would bury me. If I returned home, I would walk straight into a narrative trap. But if I returned as Mrs. Caius Blackthorne, power shift, untouchable. You're not rescuing me, I said slowly. No. You're repositioning me. Yes. The honesty was terrifying. And if I refuse, then I let the world mourn you. Silence. The fire cracked. Snow pressed against reinforced glass. I stared at the leather folder. A year. Public war. Private alliance. You said Dominic panicked, I murmured. Yes. What happens when he realizes I'm alive? Caius's mouth curved faintly. He won't panic. He'll escalate. A chill ran through me that had nothing to do with snow. Why are you really doing this? I asked again. He stepped closer, close enough that I could see the faint scar near his collarbone. Because, he said quietly, 5 years ago, your father acquired my father's company in a hostile takeover. I froze. It bankrupted him. The fire suddenly felt too loud. He killed himself 3 months later. The room tilted. You think my father is responsible. I know he is. And you're marrying me to destroy him. Caius held my gaze. I'm marrying you to see if you're different. The words hit harder than the storm. Different. Not innocent. Not pure. Different. You're asking me to choose between blood and truth, I whispered. No, he corrected softly. I'm asking you to choose who you want to become. Silence settled again. The storm hadn't stopped. Neither had the war. I picked up the contract, flipped to the final page. My name printed beneath his. Serafina Valacrest. Blackthorn. I looked up at him. If I sign this, I said quietly, you don't control me. I wouldn't try. You don't protect my father blindly. No. And if he's guilty? Caius didn't hesitate. Then you decide what justice looks like. That was the real offer. Not marriage, power, choice. I reached for the pen. My hand trembled slightly, not from cold, from consequence. Dominic thinks I'm dead, I murmured. For now. I signed. Caius took the contract, folded it once. Good, he said. Outside, the storm began to slow. Tomorrow, he continued calmly, you die publicly. My pulse spiked. And the day after? He met my eyes. You come back as something far more dangerous. They declared me missing at 9:14 a.m. They declared me presumed dead at 4:32 p.m. By nightfall, the world was mourning. Caius didn't let me watch it live. He recorded everything instead. Emotions distort. Perception, he said. Watch it when you're steady. I wasn't steady. I was furious. We stood in the private screening room inside his estate. Floor-to-ceiling screens, controlled lighting, the kind of place billionaires watch markets collapse. Now we watched mine. Dominic stood behind a podium outside Ardent Industries headquarters. Perfect black coat, somber tie, controlled grief. My fiancé, he began, voice cracking just enough, was a light in this world. I felt something inside me fracture. He spoke about love, about destiny, about tragedy. He spoke about how I insisted on stepping out of the car during an argument. He spoke about trying to stop me. The performance was flawless. Stock prices behind him ticked upward. Sympathy surge. Insurance speculation trending. Hashtag justice for Serafina. I stepped closer to the screen. He's stabilizing investor confidence, Caius said quietly. He tried to kill me. Yes. And they're applauding him. Yes. The applause wasn't loud, but it was there. Controlled. Corporate. I saw my father then, Sebastian Valacrest, standing behind Dominic, face pale, shoulders stiff. He didn't cry. He didn't look devastated. He looked calculating. I turned away from the screen. You think he knew, I said. I think he knew something, Caius replied. That was worse. The video shifted, search teams scaling down, storm conditions worsening, rescue efforts deemed unsafe. The narrative closing. They'll stop searching tomorrow, Caius said. Good. He looked at me. Good? He repeated. Yes. Because every hour they searched meant Dominic rehearsed his innocence more. Let him settle into comfort. Let him believe the snow buried everything. Caius stepped forward and shut off the screen. The room went dark. This is the last night you're Serafina Valacrest, he said. I didn't flinch. Who am I? Tomorrow? He studied me. That depends on how ruthless you're willing to be. The transformation didn't happen with makeup. It happened with information. Caius didn't hand me gowns. He handed me files. Ardent Industries shell corporations, offshore flow diagrams, private security logs, and something else. Your father signed this, Caius said. He slid a scanned document across the table. A discretionary approval signature. Sebastian Valacrest, authorizing emergency liquidity transfers from the Valacrest Foundation. The dates aligned with the laundering. My throat tightened. It could be forged. Yes. But you don't believe that. I stared at the ink. That sharp, familiar flourish. I grew up watching that signature close billion-dollar deals. Now it might have funded weapons. He always said the foundation was our redemption, I whispered. For what? Caius asked. I didn't answer, because I didn't know. 3 days later, the memorial was announced. Private, invitation only, streaming restricted. Dominic would give a final tribute. The Valicrest board would restructure leadership. Temporary chairmanship to be appointed. Dominic was the likely candidate. He's consolidating, Caius said. He's rushing. Yes. Why? Because he's afraid of audits. I exhaled slowly. He didn't fear exposure. He feared timelines. Caius looked at me carefully. This is where we pivot. Explain. You don't wait 30 days. You reappear now. My pulse quickened. Too soon, I said. Too dramatic. Exactly. I stepped closer to him. If I show up at that memorial, you don't show up as yourself. He placed a tablet in my hands. A press draft. Blackthorn Holdings announces strategic humanitarian acquisition. My breath caught. You're absorbing the Valicrest Foundation. Correct. Hostile? Legally compassionate. He met my eyes. And the announcement will include a statement from my wife. The word landed heavy. Dominic won't see it coming, I murmured. He will, Caius corrected calmly. He just won't believe it. That night, I stood in front of a mirror in Caius's private wing. Not silk, not diamonds, tailored black suit, structured, severe. My hair pulled back, minimal makeup, no softness. I didn't look like an heiress. I looked like a decision. Caius entered without knocking. He paused when he saw me. Not admiration, assessment. You're steady, he said. I'm furious. Good. He stepped closer. Fury is useful. Until it clouds judgment. His mouth curved slightly. Then I'll remind you. I looked at him fully. You're not afraid I'll turn on you? No. Why? Because you hate being powerless more than you hate me. He wasn't wrong, and that frightened me. The memorial began at noon. Private hall in Manhattan. White flowers, controlled lighting, soft piano, the kind of grief money choreographs. Dominic stood center stage, black suit, grief perfected. My fiancé, he began again, deserved a future. I watched from a private stream in Caius's office. Every camera angle mapped, every exit monitored. Ready? Caius asked. Yes. He pressed a button. The stream glitched. Dominic paused mid-sentence. The screens behind him flickered, then stabilized. My face appeared, live, standing beside Caius Blackthorn. The room inside Manhattan went silent. Gasps audible even through muted audio. Dominic froze. The color drained from his face. I wasn't supposed to survive the snow, I said calmly into the microphone. Silence. Absolute. You weren't supposed to see me again. Dominic's mouth parted slightly. He looked like a man watching a ghost calculate his downfall. You declared me unstable, I continued evenly. Emotional. Reckless. Cameras zoomed in. I survived. I turned slightly. Caius stepped into frame. And I am no longer alone. The words landed like artillery. Caius's voice followed. Blackthorn Holdings is initiating an immediate audit of the Valicrest Global Relief Fund. Shock rippled across Manhattan. Dominic stepped back from the podium. Security shifted uneasily. This is a misunderstanding, Dominic said into his mic. For the first time, his voice wasn't steady. I met his eyes through the screen. You said dead I was worth more than alive, I said quietly. But you miscalculated. The broadcast cut. Caius shut the feed. The room in Alaska went silent. I felt my heart hammering. He turned to me slowly. "Congratulations," he said. "You're officially alive." My phone vibrated. Private number. Caius glanced at the screen. "Answer it," he said. I did, breathing on the other end. Then, "Serafina," my father's voice. Not grieving, not shocked, controlled. "You shouldn't have done that." Cold slid through me. "Why?" I asked. A pause. "You don't understand the forces you've stepped into." I closed my eyes briefly. "Then explain them." Silence stretched. Then, "Come home." The line went dead. I lowered the phone slowly. Caius watched my expression. "He's afraid," he said. "No." I swallowed. "He's not afraid. He's preparing." And for the first time since signing that contract, I realized something terrifying. Dominic wasn't the only one who thought I should have died in that storm. Dominic didn't wait. Men like him never do. He struck within 12 hours. The first blow wasn't physical, it was narrative. By morning, every financial outlet carried the same headline: Blackthorn Holdings manipulates grieving family. Anonymous. Sources claimed Caius had orchestrated my disappearance for hostile leverage. Speculation spread that I had been in a private relationship with Caius before the blizzard, that I staged the fall, that the ledger never existed, that I was unstable, efficient, cruel, strategic. Caius watched the coverage in silence. "Predictable," he said. "You're trending as a homewrecker," I replied flatly. He didn't smile. "He's trying to isolate you from sympathy." "He's succeeding." "Yes." The honesty steadied me. Fear is worse when someone pretends it isn't there. My phone buzzed again. Not private this time. Blocked. I answered without speaking, breathing. Slow, deliberate. Then Dominic. "You look good for a ghost." My fingers tightened around the phone. "You look nervous for a murderer." A soft laugh. "You're playing a dangerous game." "No," I said evenly. "You are." His voice shifted slightly. "You don't understand the scale of what you're interfering with. I understand you tried to kill me." A pause. Then, "You were supposed to step out of the car for air. You were never supposed to roll." The words hit like ice water. So it was calculated, measured, timed. "You misjudged physics," I said quietly. "I misjudged you," he corrected. Silence stretched between us. "You think Blackthorn can protect you?" Dominic continued. "He doesn't care about you. He cares about destroying me." "I'm aware." Another pause. Then his tone sharpened. "You're going to regret humiliating me." The line went dead. Caius was watching my face. "He'll escalate," he said. "He already has." "No," Caius replied softly. "That was just noise." The real escalation came that night. The estate security system tripped at 2:17 a.m. Not a breach, a disruption. Drone interference. Caius was in the hallway before the second. Alert triggered. I stepped out of my room. "What is it?" "Recon," he said calmly. "Testing perimeter." Snow still blanketed the grounds. Thermal cameras showed nothing human. But something moved beyond the tree line. Too smooth. Too precise. "Ardent doesn't use amateurs," Caius said. "Neither do you." He didn't deny it. The drones retreated after 6 minutes. Just long enough. A message. "We see you." By morning, the market hit back. Ardent Industries filed an emergency injunction against Blackthorn Holdings. Allegations of corporate sabotage, freezing temporary audit access, legal war beginning. "They're stalling," I said. "They're buying time," Caius corrected. "For what?" He met my eyes. "To move money." My pulse quickened. If they clear the accounts, we lose leverage. The first real threat, not emotional, strategic, Loss of proof meant loss of war. What's the window? I asked. 48 hours, he replied. Then we don't wait. He studied me. You're thinking. Yes. Good. I stepped closer to the table displaying offshore routing maps. If they move funds, they'll route through a secondary shadow bank. They already are. Which one? Caius tapped the screen. A name surfaced. A financial institution notorious for discreet transfers. I stared at it. That bank hosted a Valcrest Foundation gala last year. Caius's eyes sharpened. You remember that? I remember everything. A flicker of approval. Can you access internal contacts? He asked. Yes. Then do it. No hesitation. No shielding. No. Are you sure? This was partnership. Or war. Same thing. I made the call from Caius's office. Encrypted line. A man named Henrik answered. Old contact. Board member. Once toasted my family at a charity auction. Serafina? His voice trembled. Slightly. We thought. I know what you thought. Silence. I need access logs, I said calmly. That's impossible. Henrik, my tone sharpened. You've been hosting transfers from Ardent Industries for 12 months. Breathing on the other end. You don't understand? No, I cut in. You don't understand. If those funds move again, you become accessory. The word hung heavy. He knew it. You have 30 minutes, I finished. I hung up. Caius watched quietly. You're ruthless, he said. No. I exhaled slowly. I'm done being naive. The logs came in 27 minutes later. Encrypted. Complex. But clear. Ardent Industries was moving funds into layered accounts set to liquidate by dawn. They're evacuating, I whispered. Yes. Can we intercept? Caius's jaw tightened. Legally? No. And illegally? He held my gaze. Are you asking? I didn't answer. Because that was the line. Justice or revenge, law or destruction. He read it in my silence. We do this clean, he said quietly. You're sure? Yes. Why? His voice lowered slightly. Because if you win by becoming him, you lose. The words hit deeper than I expected. I looked at the screens again. 48 hours shrinking. Dominic tightening. Father silent. Drone surveillance in the snow. Then, another alert. Not perimeter. Internal. Caius's assistant appeared on the screen. Sir, she said quickly, there's been a data breach. My stomach dropped. Source? Caius demanded. Within Blackthorn Holdings. Silence. Heavy. Cold. Internal? I asked quietly. Yes. Someone inside. Watching. Listening. Leaking. Caius didn't react outwardly, but I saw it. That slight stillness. Predator recalculating. Trace it, he ordered. We're trying. It's masked. I felt something settle in my chest. Not fear. Understanding. Dominic wasn't just attacking from the outside. He had someone close to Caius, watching us. The war wasn't just corporate. It was intimate. Caius shut off the screen slowly. Looks like, I said carefully, you're not the only one who was betrayed. His eyes met mine. Dark, controlled, dangerous. No, he said quietly. I'm not. My phone buzzed again. Different number. Unknown. I answered. Silence. Then, a single image came through. A photograph. Taken hours ago. My father stepping into a private jet. Destination blurred. Timestamp current. Caius saw my expression shift. What? I handed him the phone. He studied the image. Where is he going? I whispered. Caius zoomed into the tail number. His jaw hardened. That jet, he said quietly, is registered to Ardent Industries. The room went still. Completely. My pulse roared in my ears. He told me to come home, I murmured. Caius looked at me slowly. He's not running. No, he wasn't. He was choosing a side. And for the first time since the snow, I wasn't sure which side I was on. The mole wasn't sloppy. That was the problem. Sloppy leaks leave fingerprints. This one left silence. Caius didn't storm through his estate demanding answers. He locked it down. Every internal communication rerouted, every device mirrored, every executive access frozen. He moved like a man who had been betrayed before. How many people have full system clearance? I asked. 7, he replied. Who do you trust? He didn't hesitate. No one fully. Honest. Dangerous. I watched him pace once across the office floor. Just once. Then stillness again. If Dominic has someone inside your company, I said carefully, he knows our timing. Yes. He knows the audit structure. Yes. He knows we intercepted the shadow bank transfers. Yes. The repetition wasn't reassuring. It meant Dominic wasn't reacting blindly. He was anticipating. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. I answered. This time it wasn't breathing. It was a voice. Distorted. You should have stayed dead. The line cut. I lowered the phone slowly. Caius's eyes darkened. That wasn't Dominic, I said. No. It was someone confident. Yes. Silence stretched. Then, bring them in, Caius ordered quietly. Within the hour, 6 of the 7 senior executives were sitting in the estate's conference room. Controlled lighting, minimal seating, no windows. Caius didn't accuse anyone. He asked one question. Who here believes Serafina Vallecrest is a liability? No one spoke. But silence is not neutrality, it's calculation. I watched their faces carefully, some neutral, some guarded. One, Marcus Hale, Caius's chief financial officer, 48. Immaculate posture, old money accent. He didn't look afraid. He looked irritated. This is beneath us, Marcus said smoothly. Ardent is panicking. We're reacting emotionally. Emotionally. I tilted my head slightly. You don't think someone is leaking? I asked calmly. Marcus met my eyes. Miss Vallecrest, he said politely. This is corporate war, not espionage theater. His tone was condescending, subtle, polished. Caius watched him carefully. You've had full access to audit files, Caius said. As have you, Marcus replied. A micro shift in tension. Then Marcus leaned forward slightly. With respect, he continued, this entire maneuver began because of her. He didn't look at me when he said it. He looked at Caius. If she hadn't gone public during that memorial, Ardent wouldn't be accelerating countermeasures. My chest tightened. He tried to kill me, I said quietly. Marcus's expression barely back calmly. I am. I saw it then, not back calmly. I am. I saw it then. Not proof, but motive. If Dominic stabilized, the market recovered. If the war ended quietly, Blackthorn Holdings regained calm growth. If I disappeared again, Caius's leverage vanished. Marcus wasn't loyal to Dominic. He was loyal to stability, profit, old systems. And if Ardent collapses? I asked Marcus softly. He looked at me then. Markets destabilize. And you care about that? I care about preserving power. Honest, chilling. Caius's jaw tightened. Leave, he said to the room. Everyone exited, except Marcus. The door shut behind the others. Caius stepped closer to him. Do you want to explain why an encrypted signal left your office last night routed through a proxy in Zurich? Marcus didn't flinch, because powerful men rarely do. Dominic approached me 3 months ago, Marcus said calmly. My pulse spiked. And? Caius asked. He offered protection. Silence. Protection from what? I asked. Marcus's eyes flicked toward me briefly. From volatility. Translation. If Caius lost this war, Marcus needed a parachute. You sold us, I said. No, Marcus replied coolly. I hedged. Caius didn't yell. He didn't threaten. He simply said, You're finished. Marcus's mask slipped slightly. You fire me, he said carefully, and the board will demand explanation. They'll get one, Caius replied. Marcus stood slowly. You're letting her cloud your judgment. No hesitation, no softness. Caius moved faster than I expected. He grabbed Marcus by the collar and shoved him against the wall. Not dramatic. Controlled. You mistake this for emotion, Caius said quietly. It's strategy. Marcus swallowed. For the first time, he looked afraid. Security removed him 10 minutes later. The estate went silent again, but not calm. You trusted him, I said. I trusted his fear, Caius replied. And? I misjudged its direction. We stood alone in the conference room, war maps glowing on screens, Dominic evacuating funds, my father flying on Ardent's jet, Marcus exposed. The pieces weren't aligning, they were collapsing. Then the real escalation hit. Caius's head of security entered quickly. Sir, 2 syllables, sharp. Ardent just filed criminal charges. For? Caius asked. Corporate espionage. Silence. Against who? I asked. The security chief looked at me. Serafina Valacrest. My stomach dropped. He's claiming you stole proprietary financial data from Ardent Industries prior to your disappearance. Of course. I had accessed the ledger. I had confronted Dominic. There would be digital footprints. He's making it look like I staged the snow to escape prosecution, I whispered. Yes, Caius said calmly. My breath quickened. If authorities take this seriously, they will, he interrupted. And if they issue a warrant, they will. I stared at him. You sound very certain. I am. The room tilted slightly. So what do we do? Caius's eyes locked onto mine. We accelerate. How? He turned toward the screens. We expose Dominic before he arrests you. That's reckless. No, he said quietly. It's survival. My pulse was hammering now. If Dominic framed me first, public perception would swing violently. Whistleblower becomes thief. Victim becomes manipulator. Where's my father? I asked suddenly. Caius pulled up flight data. The jet had landed. Zurich. Of course. Shadowbank territory. He's meeting Dominic, I whispered. Yes. The realization hit hard. This wasn't father, caught in crossfire. This was alignment. Why? I breathed. Caius looked at me carefully. Because he believes Ardent is going to win. The words sliced clean. Not betrayal, calculation. I felt something inside me settle. Not grief. Clarity. Then we make sure he's wrong, I said. Caius studied me for a long second. You understand what that means? Yes. It means your father falls with Dominic. I didn't blink. Then they fall. Silence. Heavy. Final. But before Caius could respond, his phone rang. Encrypted. He answered. Listened. His expression changed. Not fear, not anger. Something colder. He hung up slowly. What? I asked. He met my eyes. Dominic just requested an emergency press conference. My pulse spiked. About what? Caius's voice lowered. He claims he has footage. What kind of footage? He didn't look away. Security footage. Of what? Caius held my gaze. Of you, stepping out of the SUV willingly. The room went completely still. My chest tightened. That's impossible. Yes, he said quietly. It is. But someone had edited something. And if Dominic controlled the narrative with visual proof, we wouldn't just lose leverage, we would lose credibility. And credibility is oxygen in war. The press conference was scheduled in 3 hours. The press conference began exactly at noon. Dominic never ran late. Precision was part of his mythology. Caius and I watched from the estate's media room. Every major financial network was carrying it live. Dominic stood behind a sleek podium, expression solemn, controlled outrage, manufactured betrayal. Today, he began, voice steady, I address a deeply personal and corporate violation. The word personal was intentional. He wanted emotion. He wanted sympathy. My former fiancé, he continued, illegally accessed confidential financial records months before her disappearance. A screen behind him lit up. Security footage. My stomach dropped. It showed the interior of the SUV that night. Snow blurring outside the windows. Me, uninjured, opening the passenger door, stepping out, walking away. No push, no struggle, no violence. Just me, leaving. My chest tightened. That's edited, I whispered. Yes, Caius said quietly. But the footage was clean. Too clean. Dominic let the image hang. She later resurfaced, he continued, aligned with my corporate rival, Mr. Blackthorne, weaponizing stolen data in an attempt to manipulate market confidence. Weaponizing. He was framing me as opportunistic, calculated, predatory. Authorities have been notified, Dominic finished. We are cooperating fully. The camera zoomed in. His eyes were glassy, convincing. Damn him. The feed cut to commentators. Speculation erupted instantly. Looks damning. If true, this changes everything. Corporate sabotage disguised as whistleblowing. My pulse pounded in my ears. That footage doesn't show the push, I said, my voice thinner than I wanted. Caius's jaw tightened. He cut the impact. Can we prove it? Not immediately. Immediately. That word mattered. Because perception forms in minutes. Correction comes weeks later. My phone exploded with notifications. Legal analysts, former allies, board members, doubt spreading like infection. Then, an alert. Breaking news. Arrest warrant filed for Serafina Vallecrest. The air left my lungs. They're moving fast, I said. Yes, too fast. Dominic had prepped this pre-recorded narrative, pre-filed charges, pre-positioned media. This wasn't retaliation. This was execution. Caius, I started. He was already moving. Get the jet ready, he ordered his assistant. I stared at him. Where are we going? Zurich. My pulse spiked. To confront him? To intercept your father. That shifted everything. You think he's part of this footage? I think he's part of something. I stepped closer. If I leave the country now, it looks like guilt. Yes. And if I stay, you're arrested. Silence. Heavy. Terrifying. This was the fracture point. Flight or capture. Survival or credibility. What would you do? I asked quietly. Caius didn't hesitate. I would win. That's not an answer. It is. His voice lowered slightly. If you're arrested, Dominic controls the story. If we intercept the money trail in Zurich, we expose him before the arrest can stick. And if we fail? He looked at me directly. Then you lose everything. Honest. Always honest. I swallowed. Then we go. The private jet lifted off within 20 minutes. News coverage still spiraling, hashtags forming, opinion turning. I stared at the footage replaying on my phone, frame by frame. Something felt wrong, not the edit, the angle. Caius. He looked up from his laptop. The interior camera in Dominic's SUV. Yes? It was installed after our engagement. He frowned slightly. How do you know? Because I hate dashboard clutter. Silence. Then understanding. You're saying the camera wasn't there that night? Yes. Caius's fingers moved faster across his keyboard, pulling production dates, manufacturer records. There it was. The camera model in the footage had been released 3 weeks after the blizzard. My pulse quickened. It's fabricated. Yes, he said quietly. Entirely. But proving that publicly. Different challenge. The jet cut through heavy cloud cover. Zurich ahead. War no longer remote. Now personal. When we landed, security was waiting. Not ours. Police. My pulse spiked. They moved faster than expected, Caius muttered. An officer approached the jet stairs. Miss Vallecrest, he said formally, we have an international request regarding financial misconduct. Dominic, efficient as always. I stepped forward before Caius could. Am I being detained? Not yet, the officer replied. But you are required to accompany us. Caius stepped beside me. She's under legal review, he said calmly. You have no jurisdiction without formal evidence submission. The officer held up a tablet. Evidence has been submitted. The footage. Of course. My chest tightened. This was it. Caius leaned closer to me slightly. Trust me, he murmured. I wanted to, but trust was expensive now. The officer gestured toward the waiting vehicle. Please. Caius's jaw tightened. Then, his phone buzzed. He glanced down. Something shifted in his expression. Cold focus. He looked back at the officer. Before she goes anywhere, Caius said calmly, I suggest you verify the authenticity of the submitted footage. The officer hesitated. It's already reviewed. Then review this. Caius turned the screen of his phone toward him. Production records, release dates, camera model documentation. Silence. The officer frowned. That model wasn't available on the alleged date of recording, Caius said evenly. The officer looked at me, then at Caius, then at the documentation again. Tension stretched tight. This will require reevaluation, the officer said carefully. He stepped aside to make a call. My knees nearly gave out. Caius steadied me without thinking, his hand firm on my arm. You okay? He asked quietly. I nodded. But my heart was racing violently now. We had exposed the fabrication. But Dominic wouldn't stop there. He'd escalate again. He always did. The officer returned. For now, he said carefully, Miss Vallecrest is not detained, but the investigation remains active. Temporary relief, not victory, never victory. We entered the waiting car, doors shut, engine humming, and then Caius' assistant called through encrypted line. Sir, we have a problem. What now? Caius asked. Ardent Industries just announced a merger. Silence. With who? He demanded. Vallecrest Holdings. My stomach dropped. No. No, I whispered. Caius looked at me slowly. They moved faster than we anticipated. The assistant continued. Your father signed preliminary documents 1 hour ago. 1 hour. While we were in the air. While I was fighting arrest. My father had handed Dominic the final weapon. Consolidated power. Consolidated narrative. Consolidated defense. I stared out the window. Zurich skyline cold and distant. He chose him, I said quietly. Caius didn't soften it. Yes. Silence swallowed the car. Not grief, not rage. Something sharper. Resolve. But Caius's phone buzzed again. Different tone. Encrypted red priority. He answered, listened, then went completely still. What? I asked. He looked at me slowly, voice lower than I'd ever heard it. They just froze Blackthorn Holdings' primary accounts. The air left my lungs. Dominic hadn't just attacked me, he had attacked Caius, financially, systemically, simultaneously. My father's signature had triggered it. Can we fight it? I asked. Yes. How long? Too long. For the first time. We weren't ahead. We weren't even equal. We were cornered. Zurich gleaming in cold precision, Dominic tightening the cage, and Caius, still watching, calculating. But this time, even he looked slightly uncertain. Zurich felt sterile. Glass towers, private banking corridors, no raised voices, no visible war, but empires collapse quietly here. Caius arranged the meeting within 90 minutes, neutral ground, private, conference suite inside Helvetia Tower. My father arrived exactly on time. Of course he did. Adrian Valicrest didn't believe in lateness. Or weakness. He walked in like nothing had burned, like nothing had shattered. He looked at me once, then at Caius, then back at me. You look alive, he said calmly. I am, I replied. A flicker, almost irritation. You're overreacting, he said. I laughed once, sharp, hollow. He tried to kill me. No, my father replied evenly. He tried to contain a liability. The word hit harder than anything Dominic had said. Liability. That's what I am? I asked. You accessed confidential data and threatened destabilization during a sensitive merger, he said, voice perfectly measured. That's reckless. I stepped forward. I found evidence of fraud. You found numbers you didn't understand. Caius's jaw tightened slightly, but he didn't interrupt. This wasn't his battlefield. It was mine. You signed with him, I said. Yes. After he fabricated footage to frame me. Yes. My pulse roared. Why? My father's eyes sharpened. Because he wins. Silence. No drama. No shame. Just calculation. Dominic controls liquidity across 3 major European exchanges, he continued. Blackthorn is exposed. Frozen accounts are just the first move. He looked at Caius now. You overplayed your hand. Caius's voice was calm. You're aligning with attempted murder. I'm aligning with power. The air in the room felt thinner. You always told me to protect the family, I said quietly. I am, he replied. By sacrificing me? His expression didn't change. You were going to destroy Valicrest Holdings chasing moral crusades. There it was. He never believed me, never saw me as heir, only as symbol. You think this ends with the merger? I asked. Yes. It doesn't. He didn't blink. Dominic's endgame isn't the merger, I continued. It's consolidation. My father's eyes narrowed slightly. Caius stepped in then. He's restructuring Ardent through shadow debt, Caius said. Once liquidity stabilizes, he collapses legacy shareholders. Silence. He eliminates minority influence. My father's gaze shifted. You don't know that. Caius's voice lowered. We intercepted liquidation plans. My father's posture changed slightly. Not fear, but recalculation. He won't dismantle Valicrest, my father said. He will, I replied softly. He doesn't need you once he has the brand. And for the first time, doubt flickered, small, but real. Even if that were true, my father said, regaining composure, you've already lost. How? I asked. Dominic doesn't want you arrested. Silence. He wants you discredited. The room stilled. He's building a narrative that you're unstable, my father continued. Emotional, manipulated. I felt my stomach tighten. The footage was step one, he said. There will be more. What more? I demanded. He hesitated, just slightly. Then, he has medical records. My blood went cold. What records? Post-accident evaluation. I felt dizzy. That was private. Yes. How would he get that? My father didn't answer. He didn't need to. Hospital networks, board connections, bribed staff. He's going to suggest you suffered trauma-induced memory distortion, my father said calmly. Gaslighting, public, legal, clinical. You're going to let him do that? I whispered. If it stabilizes the merger. The silence after that was devastating. Kaya stepped closer. And when he discards you? He asked. He won't. He will. Two predators measuring each other. But this wasn't about them. It was about me. You're choosing survival, I said quietly. Yes. Then understand something. My voice steadied. You taught me that. His eyes flickered. Serafina. No, I cut in. If Dominic wants to control the narrative, then we don't defend it. Caius looked at me carefully. What are you proposing? He asked. I exhaled slowly. We expose everything. Silence. That includes Valacrest Holdings, my father said sharply. Yes. That includes board corruption. Yes. That includes you. My father stared at me, cold, unbelieving. You would burn your own name? I held his gaze. If the alternative is living inside a lie? Yes. The air changed. This wasn't negotiation anymore. This was fracture. My father stood slowly. You're emotional. No, I replied calmly. I'm evolving. He looked at Caius. You think she's an asset? Caius' voice was quiet. She's a force. My father turned toward the door. You're making a mistake. No, I said softly. You are. He paused, just once, then left, and something inside me severed cleanly. No tears, no collapse, just clarity. Back in the car, Caius was silent for a long moment. You understand what that decision means, he said finally. Yes. It means we detonate everything. Yes. Your inheritance. Yes. Your father's empire. Yes. He studied me carefully. And possibly Blackthorn Holdings. I didn't hesitate. Then we rebuild. Silence. Then something shifted in his expression. Not admiration. Recognition. You're more dangerous than I calculated, he said. I learned from the best. His phone buzzed, encrypted. His head of legal. Sir, she said quickly. Dominic's team just released a medical statement. My chest tightened. What does it say? Caius asked. They're citing possible dissociative episodes following trauma. Gaslighting phase 2. I felt anger rise. Hot. Controlled. Release the full hospital footage, I said. Caius turned to me sharply. That exposes you completely. Yes. They'll dissect every detail. Yes. You could lose public sympathy. Yes. He held my gaze. And if there's anything in there we don't anticipate? I swallowed. Then we face it. Silence. Then he nodded. Do it. The gamble was brutal. Transparency instead of defense. Exposure instead of hiding. The footage went live across every platform. Full hospital intake, doctor testimony, neurological scans, nothing hidden. Within minutes, analysts began dissecting it. Dominic's narrative started to crack. He had cherry-picked fragments. But full context told a different story. He had tried to weaponize trauma, and it was backfiring. Then, Caius' assistant called again. Urgent. Sir, Dominic just escalated. What now? Caius asked. Ardent filed emergency acquisition papers. For what? The pause felt endless. For Blackthorn Holdings. Silence filled the car. He's attempting hostile takeover while your accounts are frozen. It was elegant. Freeze liquidity. Trigger shareholder panic. Initiate acquisition. Caius's jaw tightened. This is it, he said quietly. My pulse surged. If he takes Blackthorn, he controls everything. The merger, the market, the narrative, me. I looked at Caius. What do we do? He held my gaze, and for the first time since this began, he didn't answer immediately, because this wasn't a defensive play anymore. This was annihilation territory. We counter, he said finally. How? His eyes darkened slightly. We go nuclear. My breath caught. That means? It means we release the shadow debt files. The ones tied to Ardent? Yes. And the ones tied to Valacrest? Yes. Silence. That wasn't just exposure. That was global collapse. You realize what that triggers, I said. Market shock, he replied calmly. International investigation. Yes. Possibly criminal indictments across 3 continents. Yes. He didn't blink. Are you willing? He asked quietly. I thought of my father, of Dominic, of the footage, of the snow, and I answered without hesitation. Yes. He nodded once, then made the call. Prepare the release, he said evenly. But before he could hang up, his assistant's voice cut through again. Sir, there's something else. What? Dominic just issued a public statement. My pulse spiked. What statement? I asked. Caius's assistant hesitated, then said it. He's announcing an engagement. Silence. To who? Caius demanded. The answer hit like ice through my veins. To your sister. The world tilted. No. No. He hadn't just targeted me. He'd moved to secure leverage inside my bloodline, marriage, alliance, control. And if my sister signed, he wouldn't just own corporations. He'd own legacy. I stared at Caius, breathing shallow. He's not just winning the market, I whispered. He's replacing me. My sister didn't answer my first call, or the second. By the third, I stopped pacing. She won't ignore you forever, Caius said quietly. She already is. I hadn't spoken to Aurora in months. We'd never fought. We'd just drifted into different orbits. She was softer than me, kinder, less suspicious of charm. Dominic would know that. He doesn't want her, I said. No, Caius replied. He wants legitimacy. And leverage. Yes. My phone buzzed. Aurora. I answered instantly. What are you doing? Demanded. Silence, then her voice. You don't understand. Ice slid through my veins. Then explain it. He's not what you're saying. I closed my eyes briefly. He tried to kill me. You rolled out of the car. Gaslighting had already reached her. He fabricated the footage. You fabricated the war. The words landed hard. He told me you've been unstable since the accident, she continued softly. That Blackthorn has been manipulating you. My jaw tightened. Look at me, I said quietly. Where are you? There was hesitation. Then, I'm at Dominic's estate. Of course she was. When's the announcement? I asked. Tonight. My pulse spiked. Aurora, listen carefully. If you marry him, Valacrest Holdings becomes fully absorbed into Ardent. That's good? No, I said sharply. It erases you. Silence. Then. He said you try to scare me. I felt something dangerous rising in my chest. Not panic, rage. He's isolating you, I said. That's what men like him do. And what about Caius? She shot back. Is he isolating you? The question landed, heavy, uncomfortable. I glanced at Caius. He was watching me, not defensive, not offended, just waiting. He's not asking me to shrink, I said quietly. Silence. Then Aurora's voice softened. I don't want to be the weak sister anymore. The confession cracked something open. Dominic had found her insecurity and fed it. You're not weak, I said. You always acted like I was. That hurt, because it was partly true. You don't need him to be powerful, I said. And you don't need Blackthorn to be brave, she replied. The line went dead. I lowered the phone slowly. She believes him, I said. Yes. She thinks this makes her strong. Yes. I turned toward Caius. What if she signs before we expose everything? Then Arden's position stabilizes. And you? I lose the takeover battle. Not emotional, not dramatic, just truth. You'd walk away? I asked. No. Silence stretched. What are you thinking? He asked quietly. I'm thinking this isn't just about corporate war anymore. He held my gaze. It hasn't been for a while. The words settled between us. We had never named it. But it had been building. In the silences, in the risk, in the way he steadied me without thinking. You could end this, I said. How? Distance yourself from me. Publicly. His jaw tightened slightly. Explain. If you announce that Blackthorn Holdings is suspending collaboration with Valacrest entirely, Dominic loses the narrative of manipulation. That weakens our leverage. Yes. It also leaves you exposed. Yes. Silence. You're asking me to let you stand. Alone, he said quietly. I've done it before. Not like this. There it was. The shift. This wasn't strategy anymore. It was choice. He stepped closer. Not aggressively. Deliberately. Do you think I've risked my company, my liquidity, and my reputation for leverage? He asked quietly. I swallowed. I don't know anymore. That was honest. And dangerous. His hand came up. Not touching. Hovering near my jaw. You think I'd freeze accounts and invite global investigation for a merger tactic? His voice lowered. I would have won without you. The words weren't cruel. They were fact. And yet, he continued softly, I didn't choose the clean route. Why? I whispered. His thumb brushed my cheek then, gentle, uncalculated. Because somewhere between the snow and Zurich, this stopped being war. The air shifted, completely. You're not leverage, he said quietly. You're the reason. My breath caught. Don't, I whispered. Don't what? Don't make this harder. I'm making it honest. His hand slid fully to my jaw now, warm, steady. I could step away, he said. Let you handle Dominic alone. Silence. I won't. Not possessive, not dramatic, certain. My pulse was erratic now. This makes you vulnerable, I said. Yes. That's not who you are. No. His forehead almost touched mine. And yet, the weight of it pressed in. All the tension, all the near loss, all the control. Breaking. I kissed him first. Not careful. Not strategic. Real. His hand tightened at my waist instantly. The kiss wasn't slow. It was urgent. Like something we'd both been holding back for too long. When we pulled apart, breathing uneven, he rested his forehead against mine. This changes things, I said. Yes. For better or worse? Yes. A small breath of laughter escaped. Me. Even now. Then his phone buzzed again. Of course it did. Reality never waits. He answered. Listened. His expression hardened. What? I asked. He lowered the phone slowly. The engagement announcement has been moved up. My pulse spiked. To when? 30 minutes. Dominic wasn't waiting. He wanted to seal the leverage before we could counter. I stepped back. We go. Caius nodded once. This will get ugly. It already is. Dominic's estate was lit like a gala. Press gathered, investors present, cameras flashing. Aurora stood beside him, white dress, nervous smile, fingers intertwined with his. He saw me immediately and smiled. Predatory. Caius's hand slid to my lower back, steadying, not claiming, supporting. Dominic stepped forward. I was wondering when you'd arrive. Release her, I said calmly. She's not a hostage. He looked at Aurora. She's choosing. Aurora met my eyes. There was uncertainty there, but also stubbornness. Dominic turned toward the crowd. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight isn't about business. Liar. It's about unity. His hand tightened around hers. And legacy. I stepped forward. You want legacy? I said clearly. Every camera shifted. Let's talk about the shadow debt accounts in Zurich. Silence. Immediate. Dominic's smile thinned. Caius didn't interrupt. He let me lead. You're restructuring Ardent through layered offshore liquidation, I continued. You're collapsing legacy shareholders post-merger. Whispers. Movement. Aurora looked at Dominic, confusion flickering. You're wrong, Dominic said smoothly. Am I? I asked. Caius stepped forward then. Release the files. Within seconds, screens behind us lit up. Account numbers, transfer patterns, projected liquidation timelines, gasps from the crowd. Dominic's composure cracked for half a second. Aurora stepped back slightly. You said this was consolidation, she whispered to him. It is. This says dissolution. Silence. The cameras caught it, the hesitation, the fracture. Dominic's jaw tightened. You're making a mistake, he hissed at me quietly. No, I said. You are. Security moved, not ours, his. Tension exploded. Then, sirens, loud, approaching. Caius glanced at me once. We may have accelerated too far. Police vehicles surrounded the estate, financial crime division, international warrants activated. The nuclear release had triggered investigations immediately. Dominic looked at me with something almost feral. You just destroyed the market. No, I said calmly. You destroyed it when you tried to control it. Officers entered, chaos igniting. Aurora stepped away from Dominic completely now, tears in her eyes. Did you lie to me? She asked him. He didn't answer. Because he couldn't. And that was enough. As authorities moved Dominic into custody, he leaned toward me once. Quiet. Controlled. This isn't over. I held his gaze. It is for you. He smiled faintly. You still don't understand. The words lingered. Cold. Unsettling. He was removed. But something about that tone. It wasn't defeat. It was promise. Aurora stood trembling. I stepped toward her slowly. You don't have to apologize, I said quietly. She looked at me. I wanted to be strong. You are. Silence. Then she hugged me, tightly. And for the first time in this war, something felt restored. Later, outside the chaos, snow beginning to fall again, Caius stood beside me. It's not over, he said quietly. No. Markets will react violently. Yes. You might still be indicted. Yes. He studied me. And you still want this? I looked at him. Not the empire, not the war. Him. Yes. No hesitation. No strategy, just choice. He exhaled slowly, then reached into his coat. Not a ring box, not theatrical, just a simple band, platinum, unadorned. This isn't leverage, he said quietly. It's not a contract. The snow thickened slightly. It's a choice. I took it. And for the first time, it wasn't about survival, it was about love. But somewhere behind the flashing lights, I couldn't shake Dominic's final words. This isn't over. And deep down, I knew. He wasn't talking about prison. Dominic made bail in 6 hours. 6. Financial crimes, international investigation, documented shadow routing. 6 hours. Money doesn't disappear when men like him fall. It repositions. By the time we returned to Zurich the next morning, markets were in shock. Ardent stock plummeting, Valicrest frozen, Blackthorn volatile, chaos. But Dominic wasn't silent. He posted one sentence across every financial network at 9:03 a.m. You exposed the wrong accounts. My pulse chilled. What does that mean? I asked. Caius was already tracing. He's baiting, he said, or he's signaling. We pulled up the files we released. Shadow debt, liquidation chains, shell networks, everything connected, everything traceable. Unless, Caius muttered. My stomach tightened. Unless what? Unless that was the distraction. The room went still. Dominic wasn't stupid. He wouldn't centralize everything in accounts that could be discovered by audit-level penetration, not if he'd been planning long-term consolidation. Pull historical movement, Caius ordered. Pre-blizzard. We dug backward. 6 months, 9, 12. Then we saw it. Small transfers, too small to trigger alerts, spread across philanthropic trusts. My breath caught. No. Yes, Caius said quietly. Dominic hadn't hidden money inside. Ardent. He had hidden leverage inside charities, international relief foundations, education grants, medical research funds, Valicrest legacy foundations. My family's name. My chest tightened. He used our philanthropy as laundering routes, I whispered. Yes. And when authorities audit Ardent, they'll uncover that trail. Which means the public won't see Valicrest as victim. They'll see complicity, intentional or not. My father hadn't just aligned for survival. He was trapped. Dominic had embedded poison inside our cleanest structures. You said he doesn't want me arrested, I said slowly. He wants you discredited. Yes. He wants my name corrupted. Yes. And once that happens, your credibility disappears permanently. And with it, the foundation of our war. Love doesn't survive when the world sees you as fraud. Not in our world. My phone buzzed. Aurora. I answered. Immediately. He's not done, she said, voice shaking. I know. He called. My stomach tightened. When? 20 minutes ago. What did he say? She swallowed. He said you exposed the surface. Silence. He told me to check the foundation endowment statements. My pulse spiked. He wanted you to find it. Yes. He's controlling the discovery. Yes. My jaw tightened. Dominic wasn't scrambling. He was steering perception. He also said something else, Aurora whispered. What? He said Caius doesn't know the full picture. The air in the room shifted. What does that mean? I asked. He said the frozen accounts were just phase 1. My heart began pounding. Phase 2 is personal. The line crackled slightly. He said Blackthorn Holdings isn't his target. Silence. He said you are. The words landed heavy. I felt Caius watching me. Me how? I asked. Aurora's voice dropped. He said he has something from before the accident. My pulse faltered. Before? What could... Then memory surfaced. The night before the blizzard. The argument. The confrontation. I had accessed the ledger from Dominic's private office. I had copied fragments. I had deleted something. A transfer trail. At the time, I thought it was redundant. Irrelevant. Now, what did I delete? I whispered. Caius looked at me sharply. What are you remembering? I accessed his server directly, I said slowly. There was a flagged routing protocol. And? I erased it. Silence. You erased part of the chain? He asked. Yes. Why? I thought it was internal manipulation. Caius' jaw tightened. Serafina, my chest tightened. What? That might have been the actual evidence tying him to criminal intent. The room went completely still. If I erased a connecting node, then legally, Dominic could claim someone altered his records, which means he could frame me as the one who corrupted data. He wanted me to find the ledger, I whispered. Yes. He wanted me to access the server. Yes. He wanted me to panic. Silence. He engineered the entire sequence. Caius didn't answer. Because the answer was obvious. Dominic didn't just push me into snow. He built a narrative trap months earlier. The blizzard wasn't containment. It was damage control after the trap misfired. My pulse hammered violently now. He can claim I tampered with primary routing, I said. Yes. And if forensic teams find deletion logs, they'll trace to your credentials. I felt the air thinning. Can we counter it? I asked. Caius hesitated. For the first time, that hesitation terrified me more than any siren. If forensic reconstruction recovers the deletion, he began carefully, yes, it will show your access. And unless we prove intent, it looks like sabotage. Yes, it would. The whistleblower becomes the saboteur. The victim becomes the manipulator. Dominic doesn't just survive, he reframes history. I stepped back slowly. So this entire war, yes, he wasn't defending. No, he was hurting. Caius's eyes locked onto mine. Yes. My throat tightened. You should walk away. The words came out before I could stop them. Silence. What? He said quietly. You should separate from me. No. Yes, I insisted. If deletion logs surface, Blackthorn collapses with me. I don't care. That's not noble, I snapped. It's reckless. Silence. You built your empire on precision, I continued. Don't destroy it because I made one mistake. He stepped closer. Don't you dare turn this into self-sacrifice. I'm being rational. You're being afraid. That hit hard. I erased evidence, I said quietly. You made a decision under pressure. It could destroy everything. Then we face it. No, I said. You face it. Without me. Silence thickened. You think I'm here because it's convenient? He asked softly. I think you deserve survival. His jaw tightened. I didn't freeze accounts, risk indictment, and stand beside you publicly to retreat at the first complication. This isn't complication, I whispered. It's structural collapse. His voice dropped lower. If Dominic engineered this months ago, then he's been planning for war longer than you've known. Yes. And yet we're still here. Barely. He stepped closer again. If deletion logs surface, we own it. That's suicide. No, he said quietly. It's alignment. My breath caught. You would take responsibility for something you didn't do? Yes. Why? He didn't blink. Because I chose you. The words settled like gravity. Not romantic, not dramatic. Solid. But love doesn't erase legal exposure. You don't get to choose for me, I said quietly. And you don't get to decide I'm disposable. Silence cracked between us. We were both right, and both terrified. Then, Kaya's phone buzzed. Encrypted forensic alert. He glanced down. His expression went completely still. What? I asked. He didn't answer immediately. My pulse spiked. What? I demanded. He turned the screen toward me. Forensic reconstruction complete. Deletion log confirmed. User S. Valicrest. Timestamp 2317. Night before the blizzard. The room felt smaller, colder. They recovered it, I whispered. Yes. My knees felt weak. This is what he wanted. Yes. My throat tightened painfully. If this goes public, it will. Silence. This is the kill shot, I whispered. Caius's voice was steady. No. It is. No. He stepped closer again. We don't let him define it. How? I asked, barely breathing. He held my gaze. We go first. My pulse stuttered. Go first how? We release the deletion ourselves. Silence. That's insane. No. It's transparent. And you think the market rewards transparency? I asked sharply. I don't care about the market. I stared at him. You don't mean that. I do. Silence. If Dominic wants to expose you as manipulator, Caius continued, we show the full sequence. The argument. Yes. The server access. Yes. The panic. Yes. That makes me look impulsive. It makes you human. I exhaled slowly. If we do this, there's no coming back. He nodded. I know. The weight of the decision pressed down. This wasn't corporate. This wasn't strategic. This was identity, publicly choosing truth over image. And if the world rejected it, we lost everything. I looked at him. You're not choosing me because I'm useful anymore, I said quietly. No. Then why? His answer was simple. Because I love you. No hesitation, no calculation, just truth. My chest tightened, and for the first time in this war, the fear wasn't about Dominic. It was about losing this. Outside, snow began falling again. Like the night everything broke. Only this time, I wasn't alone in it. But love doesn't erase consequences. And somewhere, Dominic was waiting. Because he believed one thing above all. When power and love collide, power wins. We went public before Dominic could. Not defensively, not apologetically, deliberately. At 7 p.m., every major network carried a joint Blackthorn Valcrest. Broadcast. No flashy graphics, no dramatic music. Just us. Side by side. Snow falling outside the Zurich skyline. I spoke first. Last night, forensic reconstruction confirmed I deleted a financial routing file from Ardent Industries' internal server. No spin, no excuse. I accessed that server after discovering irregularities. I panicked. I believed the file was internal restructuring data. Pause. It was not. Silence across the feeds. I continued. I did not understand at the time that the deletion would later be used to frame the narrative of sabotage. My pulse was steady now. I accept responsibility for that decision. The word responsibility echoed. Caius stepped forward slightly. And Blackthorn Holdings stands behind that transparency, he said calmly. We are releasing the full sequence of events, server access logs, hospital intake records, security footage analysis, and internal communications. No hiding, no half-truth. If mistakes were made, he continued, they will be examined openly. Not arrogance, not aggression, alignment. The questions started immediately. Are you admitting guilt? Did you tamper with evidence? Is this corporate espionage? I didn't flinch. I deleted a file, I said clearly. That is fact. But the content of that file, I continued, does not erase the underlying financial misconduct. Then Caius did something Dominic hadn't predicted. He released the metadata. The part Dominic never anticipated we would find. Because while forensic teams reconstructed my deletion, Blackthorn forensic analysts had reconstructed something else. Pre-deletion manipulation, timestamp anomalies, back-end code markers. Dominic had altered the routing protocol 2 weeks before I ever accessed it. He had staged the deletion vulnerability, engineered the trap, and we showed it. On live broadcast. Side by side. Comparison. Original archive fragment. Modified version. A silent shift swept across financial media. Dominic hadn't just set a trap. He had falsified structural accounting protocols to bait it. That wasn't consolidation. That was fraud. Calculated, premeditated, global. My father called within 15 minutes. His voice was different this time. Not controlled, not measured. He lied to me. Yes, I replied quietly. Silence. I thought he was stabilizing risk. He was building it. Another pause. Then, I'm dissolving the merger. The air shifted. Not triumph, not revenge. Correction. You'll lose capital, I said. I already lost my daughter. The line went quiet. Not forgiveness, but something like acknowledgement. Dominic didn't hold a press conference this time. He didn't need to. Regulatory bodies moved faster than headlines. International warrants escalated. Shadow banks froze secondary trusts. Philanthropic audits began. The poison he buried inside our legacy foundations surfaced. But this time, he owned it. His public statement was short. Transparency without control is chaos. He still believed he was right, even in collapse. He was detained 48 hours later. No bail, no soft landing. The trap that took months to build unraveled in days. Markets convulsed. Of course they did. Short-term shock, temporary freeze, shareholder panic. But something unexpected happened. Blackthorn stock stabilized first. Not because we were untouchable, because we were honest. Analysts called it reckless transparency. Investors called it alignment. Legacy boards called it survival. The hostile takeover dissolved when ardent liquidity evaporated. Valicrest regained autonomy, bruised, exposed, but intact. 3 weeks later, the snow had stopped. Zurich felt less sterile now, quieter. Aurora was rebuilding foundation oversight from scratch. My father attended board meetings without assuming control. Caius's accounts were unfrozen, not untouched, but standing. And me? I was no longer the golden heir, or the liability, or the ghost in snow. I was visible, flawed, publicly imperfect, and somehow stronger for it. Caius found me on the terrace that evening. No cameras, no board members, no war room screens, just cold air and distant city lights. You understand, he said quietly, that most people would have buried that deletion. I know. You could have fought it quietly. Yes. You chose exposure. I chose peace. He studied me carefully. You chose truth. I exhaled. Same thing. Silence settled between us. Comfortable now. Not tense, not strategic. He stepped closer. No contracts, he said quietly. No leverage. No mergers. I turned toward him. Just us. Snowflakes drifted lightly again. He pulled the platinum band from his pocket, the same one from that night. You don't need this to survive, he said. No. You don't need this to win. No. But do you want it? That was the question. Not about business, not about legacy, not about control. Choice. I stepped forward. Yes. No hesitation, no calculation. He slid the ring onto my finger. Not because it secured power, but because it didn't. His hand lingered at mine. You know, he said quietly, if you hadn't deleted that file, none of this would have happened. I smiled faintly. If I hadn't panicked, you wouldn't have gone to war. Silence. Do you regret it? He asked. I thought about the snow, the SUV, the deletion, the press conference, the almost fracture between us. No, I said softly. Why? Because survival built this. I touched the ring lightly, and I wouldn't trade this for a cleaner story. He studied me for a long moment, then kissed me. Slow this time. Not urgent, not desperate, certain. Weeks later, during a global economic forum, a journalist asked me, "Do you believe justice exists in corporate warfare?" The room waited. I answered honestly, "Justice isn't clean." Silence. "It costs something." Another pause. "And sometimes," I added, "you have to choose whether you want control or truth." The journalist leaned forward. "And what did you choose?" I smiled slightly. "Both." Dominic's final statement from detention was quoted endlessly. "Power isn't about winning, it's about who survives the fallout." He was wrong. Power isn't survival, it's choice. He chose control. I chose exposure. Caius chose love. And in the end, the man who tried to control the narrative was destroyed by it. But here's the question that lingers. If I hadn't deleted that file, if Dominic hadn't pushed me into snow, if Caius hadn't chosen me over clean victory, would love have survived without the war? Or was it forged because of it? And if survival builds love, is that destiny or damage?